Max prepares to do their own crackdown on password sharing, following in the steps of Netflix, and Elon Musk prepares to launch his own video streaming app. But will it be a success? I'll talk about both of these subjects, as well as take a look at the streaming charts on this week's episode of the Saturday Stream. So I do want to thank Larry for filling in for me last week. Yes, I did get braces on my teeth, so I'm still getting used to talking with all of this metal in my mouth, so bear with me while I go through this adjustment period. But here we are, enough about me. Let's get into this week's subjects, and first I will talk about Max. Now, at a conference this past week, JB Parrott, who is the president and CEO of global streaming and games at Warner Brothers Discovery, which of course is the parent company of Max, formerly known as HBO Max, he shared that just like Netflix did, Max is going to begin cracking down on people sharing their accounts with people outside of their household. He did specifically cite Netflix as the example. Now, Netflix, of course, last year, we saw them basically institute a thing where unless you were connected to the home Wi-Fi network that set up the Netflix account, if you lived, somewhere else, if you were sharing it with a friend or a relative or a kid who is away in a different state at college, they tried to log into the Netflix account, they would get a notice stating that they can either migrate their profile to their own account that they pay for separately, or they get kicked off. Now, Netflix did give them some kind of free trial to start up that new, account temporarily, which is a rare thing for Netflix to do. But from that, even though it did anger a lot of people online, certainly, they were able to get a net gain in subscribers from people who set up their own account after that, or from just people who kept their account against the people who were angry and maybe canceled. So now we've got companies like Warner Brothers Discovery, who has Max, looking at that as the example and saying, hey, Netflix gained subscribers, they gained revenue as a result of that. We want a piece of that too. Let's try that out with our own streaming service. This follows statements earlier on from Disney, which of course has Disney Plus and Hulu and ESPN Plus. The beginning this summer, they will do their own password sharing crackdown. And both Disney and Max have updated their terms to allow this to happen, basically setting that framework for the future. Now, with Max, we don't know the exact time frame that this is going to happen. They did say that it will happen later this year and continue into 2025. I would anticipate this summer with House of the Dragon Season 2 coming out. That's going to be a time that a lot of people are going to be signing up for Max. I think the company is going to try to milk as much out of that as they possibly can, and I think that's going to be the time period that they do this password sharing crackdown. But we'll see. It's something where Netflix really broke the seal on this. All of the other companies are looking at Netflix and saying, hey, it worked out for them financially. Let's do this. Let's do this as well. But with Netflix, they are the streaming service that we've really seen time and time again is people's ride or die. People will stick with Netflix no matter what. And as we get into some of the streaming services that don't have as many subscribers as Netflix, and, especially if it goes on to some of the smaller ones like Starz or Peacock, are people going to stick around with these streaming services once they're perhaps angered that their college kid got kicked off the account, or, and there are circumstances too where maybe there's someone who travels a lot and they kind of slip through the cracks here because the system detects that they are, outside of their household. So now they've got to pay extra. I do think there are some circumstances where it's going to continue to anger some people, and people will hit a threshold where maybe they don't want to stay on with these streaming services. But what is that threshold? Time will tell. Netflix so far has been able to navigate this and be successful, but what will happen with Warner Brothers Discovery, what will happen with Disney, what will happen with Paramount, or whoever else does this? So it'll be interesting to see what happens, to say the least. But on to our next story. Elon Musk is preparing to launch a YouTube clone. Now, Elon Musk, of course, is the head of X, which is the rebranded version of Twitter. This story was reported by Fortune yesterday, but Elon Musk's X is going to launch a TV app next week for Amazon and Samsung smart TVs. It's designed to compete with YouTube's smart TV app. This isn't YouTube TV, but YouTube's app on TVs. You follow me? Now, when people think of YouTube, I think a lot of people still think of people watching videos on their laptops or on their phones, but really a huge part of people watching YouTube now is on smart TVs. I know just from my own channel, people watching this, I can look at the analytics. About 40 to 50% of my views come from people watching these videos on a TV. So these different tech companies, including Elon Musk's company, are looking at that space of people watching long-form videos that are user-generated on a TV, and they want to take up, part of that space. So with, X's, video streaming app, this is going to focus on videos that people submit to X and have uploaded on there. They can then view it through this X's smart TV app that will be on Amazon and Samsung devices. This is part of a pivoting strategy that X is trying to do to be known as a platform that isn't just tweets, but is also known for people posting videos. They've been trying to court different content creators, including Mr. Beast. Personally, I'm a little bit skeptical of this. I don't see this as something that is going to really take off. It reminds me a little bit of what Meta did, trying to experiment with their own video streaming world with Facebook Watch. It also had a smart TV app, never really took off, even though millions and millions of people across the world watch Facebook. Very few people turned into Facebook Watch, and they have gotten rid of the smart TV app. They've gotten rid of, I don't believe they're making any of the shows anymore on Facebook Watch. Red Table Talk was the only thing that people actually tuned in for. And I believe that is Jada Pinkett Smith isn't making new episodes of that anymore either. So we'll see. I don't think it's going to kill YouTube. Sorry, Elon. But, time will tell. But if you're planning on downloading this app, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts. So let's get on to the streaming charts. These, again, are from Nielsen. I will go over the streaming charts for the top 10 movies, as well as the top 10 original streaming shows. And with Nielsen's charts, these are delayed by a few weeks. So this is actually from the week of February 5th through the 11th. But with movies at number 1 for this week, we've got The Marvels on Disney+. Now, this is the week it debuted. When it was in theaters, this was largely viewed as something of a flop. There were still a lot of people who watched it, and that's kind of a thing to contextualize with some of these big movies, that they might, even if they don't earn back their budget, when their budget is like $200 million, there's still millions of people who watch those films, and there's still going to be a lot of people who will tune in for it on streaming. The question for Disney or Warner Brothers or whoever makes these big films is if it's going to turn a profit, however, and I don't know. We'll see with The Marvels, unless it does really, really well in the future, which I kind of doubt. Don't think it's going to be a financial success for Disney. And I suspect this will be the only week it's on the streaming charts, but I could be wrong. Number 2, we've got American Assassin on Netflix. This is a film that came out in 2017. It had Michael Keaton. It was kind of a thriller action film. This was something, it's kind of a bargain bin movie, frankly. It earned a modest profit at the box office. It came out from Lionsgate. But I hadn't heard of this until I saw it on the streaming charts. It just kind of goes to show again, no matter what's on Netflix, people are going to watch it. Number 3, Orion and the Dark. This is an animated children's film from DreamWorks Animation. Now, DreamWorks is owned by NBC Universal, that has its own streaming service, Peacock. What's interesting about this film is they chose not only to not release it theatrically, it went straight to streaming, but instead of it going straight to streaming on Peacock, it's going straight to streaming on Netflix, which perhaps represents a lack of confidence in NBC Universal's own streaming platform. I think a lot of people would prefer that this goes to theaters. I've heard some people comment that over the past few months, there have been very few if any children's films released theatrically. With us just now having Kung Fu Panda 4, that's the one kids movie that we've had in theaters. So I think it maybe could have helped the theater business if they had this, done a theatrical release. But it's at number 3 on Netflix, so I'm sure a lot of children and families watched it. Number 4, we've got the Super Mario Brothers movie on Netflix. That continues to do very well. We're definitely going to see a lot of sequels from that. Made in Italy at number 5. This was on both Hulu and Netflix. I believe this was kind of a rom-com. Another one wasn't like the biggest movie of all time, but yet we see it doing very well on Netflix. Lover, Stalker, Killer, number 6 on Netflix. Ready Player One on Netflix. Seraphim Falls. This was actually a Western. Interesting to see a Western really take off on streaming. We've got The Vow at number 9. Keep in mind, this is going into Valentine's Day, so it makes sense that people are watching rom-coms around this time period. And at number 10, we have Elemental. Now, this I've talked about in weeks past. This was a film that, when it first came out in theaters, the narrative around it was that it wasn't doing so hot, and it continues to be a juggernaut on streaming. So for original shows, number 1, we've got Mr. and Mrs. Smith. I believe it debuted the week before that, but that continues to do really well on Prime Video. I'll admit I haven't watched it yet, but I have heard nothing but good things about it, and I do really like Donald Glover, so I will probably tune in for that at some point. Griselda at number 2. This show continues to dominate these charts. Holy moly. I think it's going to be a really big deal for Sofia Vergara. I think you're going to see her in perhaps some more dramatic roles, and you might see some similar content coming from Netflix. Number 3, I believe this was the season 2 debut of the Halo series on Paramount Plus. I'm sure Paramount Plus is just happy to be on this chart, so we'll see if that's what kind of measuring sticks are used for the success of that show's second season. I'm sure it was very expensive to produce. Number 4, we have Reacher on Prime Video. Number 5, One Day. This is based on the rom-com movie, well, maybe not comedy. This is based on the romantic film and book. The original film, I believe, had Anne Hathaway in it, and this is a TV series based on it. Fool Me Once at number 6 on Netflix. The Tourist on Netflix. Number 8, we have The Traitors on Peacock, their sole entry on this list. That continues to be a popular show. I would imagine we're going to see more Traitors adjacent content on Peacock. The Crown at number 9, and Percy Jackson and the Olympians at number 10. So that concludes it for this week's video. I want to thank everyone again for tuning in. Now, one last little plug here. I am working with the Kansas City Film Fest to produce some videos for a new YouTube channel that I have helped them launch, and a TikTok account as well. So whether you live in the Kansas City area or not, or you just like movies and want to support the arts, I would much appreciate it if you followed that YouTube channel and that TikTok account. Their festival is next month, and I will be producing videos between now and then for both of those outlets. So that does it for this week. Make sure to tune in next week for more of the Saturday stream.